Hey guys, my name is Brandon and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you like what you see in here, you're more than welcome to hit the subscribe button so you stay notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's get straight on with today's video. Hey everyone and welcome back to Is That More Brandon. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a review to the 4th episode of The Apprentice. Again, we have lost at least one candidate in this episode, so I thought I would do a quick review and just analyse it as we go along. So, this episode was called Discount Buying, and we obviously had 15 candidates left in the process. We'd already lost 3, and we hadn't actually lost any females from the process yet, so I kind of had a feeling we were going to start changing up the teams a little bit. So, what happened was, we had the boys team, which was obviously Maura, Amina, Onyeka, and Sam, who had obviously come over from the girls team, Jack, Phil, and Verdi, and we had the girls team, who obviously Trey, Paul M, Steve came over from the boys team, and then the rest of the girls, Faluso, Raj, Flo, Noor and Rachel. So, for the girls team, so Team Nexus, Noor explained that she felt like she was potentially good for project manager. She's done lots of negotiations and actually it's something that she does on a daily basis. Raj stepped in, said that she also has previous experience, and although after a team vote they did vote for Raj, Noor said, well, hopefully, you know, we will deliver, and yes, I'm not disappointed. I guess it's another thing of her being shut down again, because not only was she shut down in previous tasks, she's now being shut down from being project manager. So let's see if she can, you know, come out of her shell a little bit and actually be more brave to be like, no, I want to be the project manager and these are the reasons why. So yeah, that's initials for the girls team. So it was Raj that took project manager position. And then for the boys team, Amina said, again, she does a lot of negotiating with the public. Maura said she's got the gift of the gab. Jack explained that he has 8 years sales experience. And as soon as they obviously voted for him to be project manager, he said, it's my time at last. So it was kind of Team Jack for the boys, Team Raj against for the girls, and then obviously they're mixed combined teams. So basically what they had to do in this task, and Lord Sugar said it's one of his favourite tasks, if not his favourite task, is for them to go and travel around the coast, wherever the location is that they get sent to, and they have to find items that are exactly what he's kind of looking for the best price possible. So I think some of the items included apple cider, some sort of sea salt jar, a Jersey Wanderer, or a jersey with an anchor, so literally just potentially a jersey could be a t-shirt, or a jersey could be, you know, I don't know, something else, but something with an anchor on it. A dozen freshly shucked oysters, so oysters after they've come out of the shell, I believe that is. A bachin or a bachin, which is an antique bowl, and it had to be at least 35 centimeters long. And then they also had to find some sort of like, it's like a hook or something. I can't remember what it was, some sort of hook thing, no idea. Obviously with the boys, Jack basically said to his team he has no idea what a bachin is or a bachin. Obviously they didn't really know it was a bowl. And then for the girls team, Flo basically said what they should do is go towards the west coast of the island in order to find the surfboard, because that's obviously the closest place towards the beach. You're most likely to find that the surfboard's there. And Raj basically said to try and get a 50% markdown on every single item. So for example, if the client that they're going to is offering them £50, try and get £25 off. So try and get half off the price that you're being offered. And she also then went on to say that her sub-team was going to be Noor, Rachel, Trey and Paul. They were going to be going across the south coast looking for 5 different items. And then Faluso basically asked Raj whether the most important thing was obviously getting the item or getting to the place on time, which is a very important question because yes, you want to get the item, but you might be a little bit delayed if you go out of place or if you go to a different part of the county or whatever. So she said the most important thing was getting there on time and also getting the item, so kind of a bit of both. So for the boys team, Jack put Amina, Phil and Onyeka as that sub-team, with Amina being the sub-team leader, and they had to go and look for the jersey, the bachin, the sea salt glass jar. And Phil jumped in and said, well actually these are 3 items that we actually have no idea what they're about. You're kind of choosing the easy options and we're kind of left with the rest that no one else knows about. Sam basically said that they should, in their 2 little teams, half of the team go from the west of the coast and half of the team go to the east of the coast, and then obviously they meet halfway at the lighthouse, hopefully covering the entirety of the coast, and then obviously being able to collect as many items as possible. And then Amina basically said to the camera that she feels like Jack picked the best side, the side in which he knows what all the items are, and obviously kind of leaving them with things that you kind of have an idea of what it is, but you don't really actually 100% know what it is. And then similarly to Raj, Jack also told them to go in at a lower price, but instead of it being 50% off, he said try and get 75% off. So again, if someone's offering something for a tenner, 50% is £5, 75% is £5 plus an extra £2.50, so £7.50 you're trying to knock off, so you're trying to get it for £2.50, I believe is the easiest way to work out that. Back to the girls team, so Noor and Rachel, whilst they were in the market, actually walked past the Jersey Wanderers venue. I think this was while they were in the taxi kind of driving towards a different item. The camera shot kind of showed that they went past a place that was called Jersey Wanderers Shop or Jersey Wanderers Adventures or whatever it was, so they drove past it while they were on the way to somewhere else. For the boys team, Phil, Raj and Onyeka, they were obviously calling up different places trying to work out what a Jersey Wanderer was. Phil managed to get through to a bakery and they said, yep, I think this is what you're looking for, or we have what you're looking for. So they kind of had a little bit of a lead there. So for the girls team, Raj, Flo, Faluso and Steve, they were all obviously doing a little pitch. I think they were obviously all going to individually try and get one of the items each. And Flo basically said the most important thing is to listen to the client and be as quiet as possible. Let them do all the speaking, let them introduce the item, let them be the funny, friendly, excitable one. And then when they're done, then you come in with whatever price you're looking for and try and negotiate as best as possible. So the first item they went for was the apple cider, and the lady who was obviously selling the cider said that the only offer she would be able to bring them down by is an extra 5%. Flo asked if they could get 7%, and they actually ended up agreeing on a 5% decrease of the price, so from £39 to £37.95, so not that much, but they got something off. I think it was Karen or Tim, I'm not 100% sure. There was no trying to understand the product, there was no kind of sweet talking. They just kind of went straight in with numbers, straight in with the business attire, and that's probably why they didn't bring the price down, because they didn't have that conversation or building that rapport early on. For the boys team, Jack and Sam were going to do a pitch for the dozen shucked oysters. I think it was Sam who basically put herself forward, or Jack put herself forward, and at first the price was £30 for a dozen, so £30 for 12. And she basically questioned, could it potentially be at 15? The guy said no. 18, the guy said no. And the final offer was, I think, £24.50. So you already knocked off about £5.50 or £5.50 or whatever it is, but she still knocked something off. And Jack basically said he would have started off at 75%, which was about £10, and then obviously work your way up or down there. And then their little mini team went off to the wine estate to obviously go and find the cider. Phil, Onyeka and Amina, also on Jack's team, tried to get Jersey Wanderers, so they did actually try and get 24 Jersey Wanderers for £4. Obviously the lady who was baking them or preparing them wasn't happy with that, and she basically said, right, you got to get your hands dirty, maybe I'll get you some sort of discount. So they were there making Jersey Wanderers themselves. And then Onyeka asked how much, if we make 24 of them, how much can we, like, as in terms of the price, what can we go down by, and how long does it also take to make? So she said about 10 minutes, and her name is Babs, so she kind of just helped them a little bit by, 10 minutes to make 24 of them, and then work out the price afterwards. And then Amina also, I think, tried to ask about some of the other items, but I don't know if Babs knew what the items were, or maybe she was just discussing it with Phil and Onyeka. But their little mini team seemed to be doing okay. I guess there wasn't really much leadering from Amina. Obviously she was the sub-team leader, so you kind of have half an idea what you're doing and then you go with it. She kind of was just waiting for Phil to speak up or for Faluso to jump in. So again, yeah, Amina here, again, similarly to the first couple of tasks, not really 100% sure what she was doing other than being a bit confused. And then, yeah, back to the girls team. So for the sub-team, which was Paul, Rachel, Noor and Trey, they were all trying to find a particular item, and I think it was the Jersey Wanderers that were a bit like a cake, similar to like a donut, and Paul tried to offer a price of £7 for 24 of them. They were then offering 24 for £10, and I think someone joked here to make out that, say that they're very delicious in order to kind of get them on your good side. And then Trey said that they managed to get 60% off of the price, with Rachel also asking this lady whether they could actually buy her batch-in off of her as well. So she knew what a back-in or a batch-in was, and she basically said, well, you know, everyone in this place has a batch-in or a back-in in their home, so I'm not going to sell you my one, but you can definitely find one somewhere. And then back to the boys team. So Babs asked for £14 for the Jersey Wanderers that Phil and Yeka and Amina made. Phil said it's a little bit more than the price they were willing to pay, because I think at first Amina jumped in and said, yeah, that price is great. He said it's a little bit over budget. Onyeka then jumped in with £13.50, and then Amina wasn't really sure what Phil said, but basically he jumped in on that deal, saying actually we need to kind of bring that price down. They did end up getting a deal that was £2.75 higher than the other team, which is obviously not good, so £2.75 in a worse position, but let's see if they can make it up with some of the other items. Obviously they were kind of on their way to one item and potentially had an idea to go to another item, and Phil basically said, look, Amina, you've got to make a decision, we have to direct the driver either one way or the other. And she said, right, let's go to St Helier, because they were going to go to one side of the coast to get one item, and then we're going to go all the way around to the other side of the coast to get something else. So she had to just decide and make a decision straight away, otherwise the driver would just continuously be driving until, you know, the end of the evening. For the girls team, it was Flo who said that they needed to get some sort of 7-foot surfboard, and initial price was 180, and she said, well, actually for something used it's still that sort of price. So she said, okay, cool, we're going to leave that here. We've actually got someone else down the road who we're going to go and talk to, see if we can negotiate a deal with them. And I like the way that she did this, because it's almost like too bad for you, we're not going to pay for your surfboard because we've actually got someone else, we've got another contact ready. But then I guess she did say to the mini team that she was with, she said, well, actually, I don't know whether we should just go back in, try and knock off a little bit of price of that, and then just move on to the next price, move on to the next item. So she actually asked Raj how much she'd be happy with knocking off the price, and as long as they could get another 40 quid off, Raj would be fine. So Flo came back, asked if they could do 140, asked if they could do 120, the guy said no. 140, the guy said yes. And Tim again joined in here, basically saying the fact that this half of the team threatened to actually walk out and then walk back in, I guess it doesn't seem professional, and it's kind of like we don't want you, but actually then we do want you. So I think at that point, if I was in a situation where I potentially could get a different price somewhere else, I'd just go, okay, cool, thank you for the offer. We're going to go and quickly have a look down the road, we might be back later on, and then give it maybe 10-15 minutes, come back and go, right, we've had a bit of a train of thought, not kind of leave and then come back in straight away. And then, yeah, back to the rest of the girls' team. So Noor tried to get 12 oysters for £1.50 each. So she was with Rachel, Paul and Trey. They did also try and ask the restaurant how long it would take for the oysters to be shucked, because although they had cheap oysters, the restaurant would need to have shucked them for them. Apparently it was going to take too long, and you know, they didn't even know what price they were going to be paying. It was kind of just finger crossing, hoping that they would be shucked in time. So yeah, after a bit of discussion, they went back in, they said no, we can't really wait, so unfortunately we're going to have to disclose that deal. And then obviously back to the boys team. So Jack went to a vineyard where all the wines were. He said it was a beautiful vineyard, and the $39.95 price tag was a little bit higher than his original price, or what he was thinking. He offered £27.50, and the final offer that they got was £34. So a little bit cheaper than the other team, but I guess it was because Jack kind of, you know, flirted a little bit with the lady. And he basically said he came up with the goods £3 less than the other team. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's £3 in profit on that item, plus also £2.70 profit in a different item that the other team also got for a higher price as well. Amina, Onyeka and Phil from their team also tried to get into a shop, spoke to a lady, and she basically said, well, there should be a back-in in the back. They're quite rare to get hold of. And they basically, you know, although this guy was trying to explain all these different types of back-in and, you know, materials and things like that, Phil basically said, okay, cool, we haven't really got time for this long discussion. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Great, no worries. Do you know someone that would have it? And we have to move on. So I do like the way Phil is very choppy. He's very like, do we have what we need? Do we have a good price? Can we leave and go somewhere else? So rather than Onyeka, who was kind of, I guess, just standing there a little bit, and Amina might have been a little bit confused, or I guess under a lot of pressure, because yeah, she's a sub-team leader for a team that she doesn't really know what she's getting in terms of items, and also she has two quite vocal people on her sub-team, both Phil and Onyeka. So I guess, yeah, in her position, she's quite quiet, she's not really sure what's going on, so it's better to just potentially let someone else take control, but then they should have been the sub-team lead instead. Back for the girls team, Trey wanted to build rapport in terms of finding the shucked oysters, and yeah, like I said earlier, it would take about 30 minutes for them to get to the restaurant in order to get the shucked oysters, so they decided that they didn't want to do that. Nora explained she was a little bit nervous because they actually received no items so far and they still had 4 more to go. And then Trey basically said to his little team, energy back up, let's go and find a different item. Back to the boys team, so Amina, Phil and Onyeka, they weren't able to find some of their other items, and actually in the market where they were looking for items, they actually walked past 2 of the items, both the jersey and the Jersey Wanderers. They called Jack and the rest of his little team to kind of work out what they were doing and what they were able to find or not find. And Sam basically kind of said that it sounded like the 3 of them were only asking for items in one particular place, so potentially, I guess, to move on and find a different location. And then back for the girls team, Steve managed to get the sea salt glass jar with Raj, Flo and Faluso. So the original price was £47.50, and if the guy said to him, if you can help me blow it, we'll actually bring that price down to 25. And Flo actually then jumped in and offered 21. So I think Steve took the credit for this, but obviously Flo jumped in and got that extra £4 knocked off. So she was actually kind of the saviour there, but I guess Steve was also good at bringing it down to 25. So I think both of them together did quite well. And Raj basically just said, yeah, well done, Steve, that was amazing. And I guess Flo here was a bit like, well, hang on. Yeah, he brought it down to 25, but I brought it down to 21. With Paul, they weren't able to do the £1 per oyster, so he actually offered 25p, which I guess was a little bit too low. He managed to get 12 for 42p, and at 3:50 p.m. they still had 2 items to go, so almost 4 o'clock they still had 2 more items they needed to find. It was Phil who secured the jersey shirt on the other side of the island. Phil said that potentially Amina needs to put her neck on the line and make a decision, because instead of just being like half knowing what to do and letting someone else make decisions, she had to make a decision as to what they were going to do. Maura had an 80 or 90 starting price for a surfboard. Apparently, I think they tried to offer 190 and she almost said yes. Jack then jumped in and said 150 because their budget is low, went down to 185. Maura then jumped in and offered 190, and they actually ended up spending more than £50 more than the other team. Maura then said that she also could have had a minute of silence, and they could have actually helped the situation. And I guess at this point she wasn't going to agree to the 190. It was just the fact that Jack said that she should lead the deal, and then when she was going to lead the deal, like I said, she didn't really have much time to think, and then he obviously butted in and kind of ruined that situation. And then for the girls team, Trey explained to Raj they didn't get the Jersey Royals, and he actually took the phone from Noor, so I guess on the sub team she was kind of not really clearly explaining what was going on. So Trey just said, look, we can't get this item. Raj said, fine, we'll take it, you go and get a different item instead. So that was kind of resolved very quickly. And for the boys team, Amina got £75 for the jerseys. The price ended up going back up to 95. She managed to bring it down to 87. It went back up to 93. Bit of a weird deal, but they ended up agreeing with 93. And Karen said they actually walked past the other jersey in the market, which I guess in a market was going to be a lot cheaper than £93. It just needed to be a jersey with an anchor, so that could be from anywhere. Sam said that her team were going to be off to go and get the shackles. Verdi was trying to look for a 60mm shackle, but wasn't sure which way to measure it, whether you measure the metal bit at the top or whether you measure the bit at the bottom. And they managed to get the price to £14. Verdi asked if they can do it for £8. They managed to get it for £8, I guess, because the guy was in a good mood. So moving on to the final part of the show now. So Rachel, for her team, managed to get £1.20 for the shackle. So again, massive difference in price. The girls paid a lot less than the boys team did. Raj managed to get 10% off for the jersey with a final offer of £101. I don't think it's £101, I think that might be £10, I'm not sure. And the Jersey Royal shop was actually closed, so the venue they wanted to go to, they couldn't actually get inside of. Onyeka offered £35 for an item. Phil jumped in at 32 as the final budget for the back-in. Again, knocked off another 3. And all they needed to do now was run to the finish line, which was the Jersey Lighthouse, all the way to the end. So we're in the Jersey coast, so everything is Jersey related. Flo for the boys team said every second counts. Faluso said that she was on the first full team to arrive at the lighthouse. Phil actually started carrying Amina a little bit. Jack said that even though they got to the lighthouse after the time, he hopes that, you know, they weren't too late. And Raj said that they missed a low-cost item, which could have obviously potentially, you know, ruined their chances of winning this task. So we then end up in the boardroom. Start with the girls team. So Raj basically said that her team strategy was to offer 50% off of the item originally that is offered to you, and she said although it wasn't necessarily the best thing to offer, it was a good pitching point, a good starting point, you have good conversation. And Lord Sugar jumped in and said, well, Jack said 75%, so actually you're both just as clumsy and nuts as each other. So Raj's team managed to get apple cider 40% off, or they wanted to get 40% off, managed to get 5% off. For the surfboard, it was Flo who took control of that, it was 160, and they wanted to go to the next retailer. They ended up luckily being able to get it for 140, so another 20 knocked off. For the glass jar, they did aim to get it less than £20. Steve offered 25. Obviously Flo got it down to 21, but I think Steve got the credit here. The oysters had a little bit of a situation, so Rachel thought they were going to be going to the wholesaler and took credit for, you know, that failure of the task. Paul negotiated on the oysters, which was unshellfish of Noor to let him do that, and Rachel paid £1.20 for the back in. So again, very simple and very cheap for the back in there. So let's see what the boys team did. So Jack, it was oysters first. So Sam started on a price of 15. They ended up on a price of £24.50. So almost double of what they were looking for, but they still got, I guess, a good sort of deal. Off to the vineyard to get cider. Jack wanted to get 12.50% off. He ended up getting 5% off. With the surfboard, obviously Maura said potentially she was going to deal at 210, or I think that's what Jack said. Jack said he thought she was going to do a deal at 210, and she just said no, that's where we kind of were. I was going to bring it down, I just needed a few seconds to think, and that he jumped in. And Sam also jumped in as well. So yeah, I guess Maura was kind of in the situation of, hang on, you know, if the two of you would have just stepped back a little bit, yes, I'm not the loudest voice in the room, but I would have got somewhere just by having a few seconds to breathe. And it was Verdi who got the £8 shackles at the end as well. Karen explained they got the wrong size shackle, it was 16mm, and Sam said that, you know, they even had a tape measure, but they weren't sure which part of the shackle to measure, so that's obviously quite embarrassing. Amina said she wasn't really sure what a back-in was. Onyeka said that they travelled all around a lot of the island in order to get the jersey. And in the end, Karen said that for the boys team, they got 7 items. They spent £395.20. They didn't get the royal potatoes or the glass jar. They got the wrong shackle, and they were also late to the finish. So £274 of fines were taken off of the profit. So their total spend was £669.50. So they added an extra 274, plus also being late, plus also having the wrong item. For the girls team, Tim said they got 8 items. They only spent £337.23. They also didn't get the jersey potatoes. They also got £90 of fines, and their total spend was £427.23. So the girls did get more items, they spent less, and they had less fines, and that's why that girls team won. So Raj and the rest of her team, Nexus, obviously got through to the next stage. And Lord Sugar basically said, well, you're going from negotiation to navigation. Raj for her team said that's 4 wins in a row. She wants to sail a few more weeks and, you know, get a little bit further in the process. Noor said that she was confident as the sub-team leader. Trey said winners, and Rachel said that's also her 4th win on the trot as well. Again, none of the girls have lost a task yet. Well, the girls on this team haven't lost a task. Obviously, the girls on the other team that have just moved over have obviously just lost their first task. In terms of the rest of the team, Jack basically said Amina had her hand in almost every negotiation. So I guess he kind of chucked the blame on her straight away, saying that every single negotiation she was dipped into, so potentially part of every single one of those negotiation failures is due to herself. Maura said that Jack's 75% reduction price was actually unrealistic. Onyeka and Phil basically both said that Amina had no plan for the day. Amina basically said no one was taking accountability other than putting all the blame on her, and Jack said that Amina needs to take responsibility for the failure of the task. So when they all came back into the boardroom, Lord Sugar said that it was the worst task, that it's the worst way this task has been done, and it's the worst team that has done this task. They paid 6 out of 7. They paid more for 6 out of 7 of the items than the other team did, and Lord Sugar basically said that Jack's 75% off tactic was just not helpful. He said it's never been used before and it's never been successful before, but he used it as kind of like a starting point or an open conversation kind of thing. And he also said that Amina changed her mind to go from antique shop to jersey throughout the task rather than just sticking with one item and one location. Phil said that she can't seem to really take responsibility. He was actually giving hints to Amina on what she needed to do in terms of making a decision, bringing prices down, negotiating, things like that, chopping up, you know, getting things done a little bit quicker. And Onyeka basically said at one point that Phil also tried to take over, and I think this is because he said, "Girls, what do you think?" And that's when Onyeka said, "Well, I would have. That's why I spoke up, because you asked the both of us what we thought, and then when we spoke up, then kind of disregarded what we both said." So Onyeka basically jumped in and said, "Look, I completely understand your situation. Yes, Amina was supposed to be sub-team leader. Yes, Phil was taken over a little bit, but also he did say, 'Girls, what do you think?' And that's the only reason that Onyeka actually stepped up as well. Otherwise, she would have just kept quiet. I'm glad she didn't keep quiet. I'm glad she did speak up." Again, back to the surfboard deal. Jack said that supposedly he did hear Maura say that she almost was going to agree at £210, and she basically said that Sam is basically just supporting everything Jack said, and you know, during that deal it was Maura who was supposed to, you know, close that deal, and she was the only one that wasn't really listened to. And I guess the thing, you don't know what someone's going to say until they say it, so don't kind of pre-exempt or pre-guess something. Let her play out the deal, let her do what she can do, and if it goes wrong, then potentially jump in. But until it's gone wrong, let her actually have a think, get her words out, and then she would have potentially closed the deal at less of a price than the other team. In terms of the shackle, again, there was no correct dimension of the shackle, and Lord Sugar said 16mm, and that's what the guy at the desk said when they went to go and get the shackle. And Tim also said that they paid more for this shackle, so although it was also the wrong shackle, it was also more expensive as well. And Jack said that they waited almost 15 minutes for their little sub-team to come back as well. So that was quite disappointing because, yeah, although you've got the fines for getting the wrong item and potentially missing some items, you could have at least got back on time to show that your time management skills are actually quite good. Jack said he wanted to bring back Amina and Maura. Maura jumped in straight away, said it was the wrong decision to bring her back. And although the three of them went back outside, Karen basically said all of them in the team actually made mistakes. Lord Sugar called the lady at the reception desk and said to stop all of the other candidates going back to the house just on this team. And once they all got brought back in, obviously you kind of saw the confused face on the rest of them. He basically was just like, I'm going to find out who's responsible for the failure of this task. Jack basically said he has given 110% in all of the tasks. Yes, he's lost 4 out of 4, but he is a born winner. Maura said she's given a lot for this task. And she was kind of spoken over in terms of the surfboard negotiation. She knows she's not the weakest. Jack basically said Amina's the weakest. Verdi said that his first purchase was done, so he did the oysters. And Amina basically explained that is not one of the most difficult items, so obviously that was going to be, you know, one of the easiest items to find. She said it was actually Jack who should be fired. Onyeka said that Jack from the other side should be fired. And then obviously buying shackles the wrong size, and obviously there are also mistakes on her side, and I guess she's kind of referring to Amina here. Yeah, there's potentially 2 people that could have been the failure of this task. So at first it was Amina, she was the first one to be fired, and then very quickly Jack was also fired as well. So I guess Amina, sub-team leader, not a very good sub-team leader. Jack, project manager, put himself on the line, but you know, he couldn't get his team all there on time. Wasn't really much control. He was kind of taken over on some of the negotiations that he was actually asking other people to take the lead on. So I guess both of them were just 2 completely different extremes. One leader was too quiet and one leader was just too loud. Lord Sugar said that they're all lucky to be staying in the competition, and Amina basically said that everyone seemed to be at fault and that everyone was dodging the bullet. Jack also said it was a bit of a big shock, but he wasn't really expecting to go. People at the house, Trey said that obviously they must have all done something wrong for them all to be brought back, with Verdi saying that he's not leaving. Faluso thought that Amina and Jack were, at least one of them was going to come back, and she kind of just shrieked and was like, oh my god, Amina and Jack both gone, with Paul basically joking, saying he thinks Jack was in the car. And Sam basically said that in terms of that task, they probably failed due to both the project manager and the sub-team leader, and that's why both of them are obviously out of the competition. So we have 13 candidates left. I can't remember who all 13 of them are, but we do only have 13 people left. We've lost 5 so far, 1 in week 1, 1 in week 2, 1 in week 3, 2 in week 4. And obviously episode 5 will be coming out very soon. So yeah, as of now we have 13 people left. We're almost halfway through. And I think you are starting to see a few more front runners. You are starting to see people like Maura, who I didn't really think much of in the first episode. I thought she was just, you know, there with a funny accent, but you know, she's trying to get on with the negotiations. She just needs people to actually listen to her and understand what she's saying. Noor, again, she's been shut down in almost every single situation, so I guess she needs to put herself as project manager, otherwise she potentially could go soon. People like Rachel, she's kind of just hovering. Faluso, I guess, again, with her, she's also very direct, very loud, asking the right questions. Again, probably needs to speak up a little bit more. Obviously, I like Steve. I like Phil. I think Trey's quite funny. Verdi's okay, but I guess he needs to just, you know, take things a little bit more seriously rather than just joking around. Otherwise, he'll end up where one of the other guys was a couple of weeks ago. So there are still a few people there that I'm unsure about, but people like Flo, I think, very confident. Steve, very confident. People like Noor, Rachel, Faluso, they're kind of there, but they need to just come out of their shell a little bit more. So we'll see what happens in week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 going forwards. But yeah, if you did enjoy my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until my next review, thank you for watching and goodbye.